Hello, welcome to the Edge of the Unknown. My name is David Kuhn, and I'm here with Carl Beck.
Hey Dave, how you doing?
Pretty good, brother. How are you?
Doing well.
And we got this crazy thing we're going to talk about today, and because I mean it's been coming up everywhere I go. Even the propane guy was talking about it. What are we going to do after AI takes all our jobs, bro?
That's a really good question. It's going to be it's a very interesting time for what this stuff does and what it is.
I know, and it's funny because I've been talking about going into the unknown for a while, and it was more like going into a different consciousness. Was the unknown, but now it's manifesting physically in our world. Yeah, it's like nobody knows what the heck is going to happen. Yeah, so I thought it would be cool to explore this in this video today. What do you think, Carl?
Yeah, I think that's it's a great thing to take a look at. It's going to impact a lot of lives and may be good, maybe bad, maybe a little of both.
Yeah, I mean, we're not here to scare nobody or anything, but that I think looking at reality as it is, what we know, and maybe some theories that we have, it's just a good thing to have this discussion,
I agree. There's a lot to it, a lot of angles.
right? And I was like checking out videos on YouTube, like sort of preparing for this, and a lot of it is kind of scary, and I don't really think anybody really knows what's going to happen. I have some interesting perspectives, but I'm sure you do too. How is this going to affect you, Carl?
Well, being that I'm a coder, I'm like number one on the chopping block. I already working for my company, and they had announced recently that in the month of March that AI had created millions of lines of code with like about a 93% accuracy. Well, that definitely affects my job. I mean, I use it when I'm working, and it helps me write code. And I think when it's a tool like that, it helps me to be more productive. But when they're using it to actually write uh, write code, it kind of takes away from what I do. But it all depends. Is it going to have the creativity that I have? Um, I don't know. I don't know what will happen with all of that. But for me, it's a little scary. I'm getting close to the end of my career here. Yeah, so whatever happens, but it's still a pretty big concern. Even just in the next few years, what it could possibly do to my industry and my people that work like I do.
Right. Uh, yeah, I can see how that could be like a little. I mean, we could look at it as being scary. We can definitely look at it as also being an opportunity to shift into something different, something more fulfilling, something more with purpose. Um, One of the things that I was thinking about, and I mean, there's so many people. Like I met this kid at Best Buy like recently, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to school." Uh, and he's studying like computer science, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to get a job, and I'm going to owe like a couple $100,000." So he's like, it's kind of a wild time to be, even thinking about college anymore, and that is something that these younger folks have to think of. I mean, you're at the end of your career. And the other thing too that I was kind of thinking about, and this is just like, like to think about like paradigm shifts, like the Industrial Revolution, right? Like not even like, before the Industrial Revolution came, like a candle maker and a buggy maker and, all those guys, the buggies that was a huge industry back in the day. And they were all gone. All those jobs are gone. And then we came into this digital age, this new revolution, and like all of those jobs, like even working on a computer itself, those jobs weren't even here 40 years ago.
Right. And even with, even going back to the buggies and that kind of stuff and candles, think people think, oh, well, I'm going to lose my candle job. But then, all of a sudden a light bulb job became available.
Right,
The buggy went away. Well, I'm going to lose my buggy building job. Well, all of a sudden car manufacturing job became available. 50 years ago, people didn't even know what a social media manager was or so all of these things, even with the rise of the computer age, it created a whole slew of new high paying jobs,
right.
which, is pretty cool. The thing is, AI kind of can do any job
Yeah.
if it's applied correctly.
I was even surprised to hear some of these people talking about, the AI could be a plumber or a carpenter
Yeah,
and
with
even
the
like,
help of like a android type or humanoid type robot to some.
right. And I looked into that, and I mean, they're making some now that are really good, but like because AI learns from itself, and they're talking like, yeah, we're making, like 1,000 a week, but within a couple of years, we could be making, like 100,000 a week. Um, which is I mean, I wouldn't mind having one for myself, I'll do some dishes and like, mop up for me and, like, I mean, I don't wanna sit there and talk to it or anything because that's weird, um, but if it go out and fix my car for me, you know, I I I wouldn't hate it, it would be okay. I know that's weird. So, I kinda wanna move into, like, this, like, okay, so this paradigm shift is different than other paradigm shifts. This is what I've come to believe. I'm like, okay, so this isn't like the industrial revolution where it created all these factory jobs. This is like the opposite of that. This is like taking away all the jobs. And so, this paradigm shift, and this is what I believe is really happening, is in some ways is changing consciousness for humans. Humans are also changing consciousness at the same time. I feel like before these paradigm shift, like the other paradigm shifts, like we just became like, like androids. We were like, became like machines, for like the rich. People who worked in factories, yeah, they took pride in their job and that was cool and everything. And they were able to feed their family and it, provided them like a really good, back in the day, people could buy houses and, you know, th- they made enough money from the jobs that they had to, buy houses and take care of their family. That seems to have like begun to crumble in our society. Like there's, 60% of the population can't make a living, they're working two jobs. So I feel like, and that's where the word entropy comes in. I want to introduce that. That's the second law of thermodynamics. Um, and so with entropy, I feel like we're going through like this entropy experience now with the climate, yeah, and with like we've come to a place in this paradigm where there's nowhere to go. It's not sustainable anymore, and that creates that closes the open system that we're in. Like the Earth has an open system, we are an open system. When and on and that creates this chaotic field. And entropy is good. It's a natural thing. It's natural in the way that it breaks down. Like if a tree dies or a body dies, that system dies and energy stops flowing, and then like the body or the tree decomposes, right? I feel like that's where we, this is kind of pretty out there, right? But I feel like that's sort of what's happening right now. Like, when we create energy too in these closed systems, like when we create all this energy to power AI, we are literally increasing entropy and heating up the earth. And so that's why I think nature is correcting what has been unsustainable. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not, I guess it depends on how that, that energy is being generated. But, for instance, if it's solar, then, which I don't think is going to generate enough electricity for AI to run, because it sounds like they need whole power plants in order to make some of these AI engines run and sustain themselves. So yeah, I think it's definitely gonna be an effect on our Earth, um, in some way, shape, or form.
And they also need water too, right?
Yeah, yeah, depending if it's like a nuclear facility, yeah, I mean, we definitely need to find some better ways to generate the the energy. But yeah, I mean, it can use all kinds of things. And I guess it all depends on what happens to the humans.
Right. Well,
It's all, yeah, like you're saying, as we're going from one, it's as you put it, like, we were talking about the tree or the body passing away and decomposing and becoming into something else. The energy is constant, but it's just taking a different shape and form.
yeah,
Obviously, we need electricity to make AI work.
right,
You don't have electricity, you don't have AI.
right. And so, some of the things I was thinking about is like, like, what if like we are living in a false reality, meaning that like we are working so much that we don't really have time to hang out with our family. We send our kids off to school to learn basically, and it's an antiquated system. There, these schools and the public education system or the education system in general, it was created to to educate children and how to go into the workforce, really. Uh,
Exactly.
and it also was so that parents could work.
Right. So it's all geared towards these jobs. Now, see, that's the
Right.
interesting thing about AI is if AI takes these jobs,
Mhm.
then, do we really need education to be so focused on a skill? To some
No,
extent, you know,
no, what our
really have
purpose as a
the
species changes.
right. And I mean, education could be then focused on better things like how to better ourselves or how to interact better as and be good humans to each other and be good to the earth and its other inhabitants. um
Well, and this is the exciting part of this, because I know it's scary, but also if we can just like pick the veil up and just kind of look beyond. And this is where, like, I usually lose people when I start talking about this with, they're like, whatever. Like with the propane guy, and that's why this I was at that propane place. And he's just he's a great guy, super friendly. He owns a propane company, and he was like, and it's I don't know why I always like anywhere I go, I start talking about all kinds of crazy stuff with people. But he was like, "Yeah, what are we gonna do? What is our purpose?" And I was like, "Damn!" Like, and we had a conversation for 15 minutes. He's like, "Well, some people, they're just not gonna want to work." And then I was like, "I don't know if that's really." What's going to happen, because a lot of people who don't want to work is because they don't have the skills to have a decent job, and they haven't been taught to find their purpose. They haven't been taught to find what really turns them on, right? And that's what I think where we're moving into, we'll have the time to do that, and our education system will completely change. And as it should, because I mean, mostly what I've learned in school was kind of bullshit, except for math and reading. A lot of the science, or even like some of the science was good, but a lot of the social studies and all that, like they were just like programming. There wasn't even like true. This is back when I was
Well,
learning,
I think
but
the social studies are important because that involves our interaction with each other. But, a lot of the stuff is still geared towards, and I mean, I guess a lot of it, the basic stuff, being able to read, being able to
sure,
do some math, being able, having a few skills that can work for you no matter what, that you would have at least to understand the world a little bit. I think those things are important. But you definitely, the whole, especially when you start getting into college and you start getting really specialized towards some skill, how much of that, how much of that are we going to need? If we have, I mean, somebody's still got to understand all this stuff. You know, I think it's important that we all use the AI
yeah,
because, without being able to use it, then we're not going to have knowledge of how it works and that kind of stuff. We still need to have knowledge of things around us and not be ignorant, because once you're ignorant, then you have the ability to be controlled. And and AI, kind of even presents a little bit of that issue. It can free us, or it can allow us to be controlled depending on who has, power over it.
right. Well, and that's where I believe that like there's a convergence, yeah. There's like AI is coming this way, and our consciousness is rising to meet it because and I know this is kind of esoteric and not known, right? Like people uh there's a lot of folks talking about this sort of thing, but it's not proven, right? And it's beyond like what we really truly know. But the convergence of that kind of technology, which is growing super fast and going into quantum AI, which is a completely different, more conscious kind of technology, way more advanced than the like stuff that we're using now, and they're already starting to use that. And the cool thing about that kind of technology is it's bringing forth new technologies, like possibly like a new energy source, new ways to heal the body. They're already creating new ways to work with the cells to create stem cells. And there's so many new technologies that the quantum AI will bring. And at the same time, humans, it almost seems like we haven't really evolved as quickly as these technologies. Like in some ways, we just haven't, like we have been learning old stuff and coming into like new ways of learning about who we are, how to work with our body, how to open up those energy fields in our body so that we can literally connect into consciousness, just like AI, just like quantum AI does. And there's a lot of research going around that on that subject. Uh, and that shifts like almost everything really quickly. Yeah. So one of the things that like, I think is the hardest thing to really wrap your mind around, and this is for real for me, and I think it's easier for me because I'm just super out there, but like, and I've been like kind of floating around in this, but um, how can what if we change? What if our consciousness shifts to a point where like we're not killing each other anymore, right? Because the biggest fear around AI is that some evil government or whatever will get a hold of it, right? Um, for me, that's they'll like, and I hear that a lot too. Is like they're going to be
That's
able to
my biggest
watch it,
fear of it.
right? And they can instill belief systems in us, and they can control the narrative. But what if, this is a big if, what if we as human beings start to release that energy, right? And then we start jumping these evolutionary timelines to meet all of this at the same time. That sort of changes everything. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean that's a really interesting concept because without all the, if let's say AI is able to do all these jobs and it basically, because now that people aren't necessarily involved in doing the jobs, it doesn't, the cost of creating, these goods and services or whatever go way down. Um, and then we're able to spend more time, we're able to have our needs met. Um, but we have more time now because we're not focused on all this, daily grind of just trying to make everything work, that, we begin to, you know, understand our purpose better and be able to become, as you say, more conscious. And our consciousness increases and builds up to this, to meet this new level of intelligence that we are using. Um, I think it has a lot of possibilities, and as long as we can remain free, I think it will have the power. And I think it might even drive freedom, really, if again, if people's consciousnesses are rising, then they're not, you know, maybe they're going beyond greed and going beyond all these, need to control, others in order to have power and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I've yet to see it, obviously, in all of human history, but
Yeah.
that be something, you know, if
Well,
if it
yeah.
could, people could evolve beyond all these, needs that create all this strife and problems.
Well, I agree. So it is hard to like imagine something like that happening,
Right, it is.
especially like if you're living, in a daily grind. And I know that's like a big leap for folks and to even, it took me a while to even start to like, um, for a while when this was coming through me, I was like, am I crazy? And when I would talk about it with folks, like, I'm like, this is a good thing. We're moving into this new paradigm. It's going to be amazing. And people are like, yeah, whatever, blah, 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 and would change the subject and walk away. But really, it's starting to happen now, right? We can see the shift, and we can see the shift happening in the real world, and that begins to shift when millions of people lose their job, right? Or billions of people, like, there is going to be a place for them to land. And that's sort of my message, is like there is going to be a better way beyond this, but when you're in the shit, you cannot see it. Even when I went and got a job and was working all the time last year, I couldn't see it. I was like, oh my God, like, just like, you get into it and you're just working all the time. But so what if, like, the school, what if we spent more time with our children? And because honestly, these kids are so amazing these days. Um, they really are, and they're really
Yeah, they
tuned in.
are.
Yeah, and I think they'll gravitate to this new way of learning. Because I feel like so much of what we've taught our children is to, like, you know, behave a certain way and believe a certain way, and you got to do this to survive. You got to do this you have to spend your whole childhood like sort of working towards something. And what if we started relearning the way that we interact with reality, the way we create our reality, and also the children, because they're not so attached to, they haven't been living in this field for so long, that it's easy for them to find a purpose, and they're like, oh, this is my purpose. I'm going to start working towards that. And their education system just meets them with whatever their purpose is. It's hard to imagine like not having like all of this economic system in place anymore, though.
Right. And I mean, that's the other thing too is, I think they would be able to allow to be more creative. And I think that's really important going into this new paradigm because creativity is really going to be the new human commodity. Because even though AI can do stuff, and I mean, I think it can even create stuff, I don't
Yeah.
think it'll ever be able to create the way humans create.
No, of course not.
And so, our current education system has, for the longest time, stifled creativity to some extent.
Of
Not
course.
entirely, because obviously there's a lot of creative people out there. They do a lot of creative things, which is why we are where we are. But I think where it becomes purely more of a creative type process, I think that's what will, help bring humanity up several notches in terms of survivability and being able to relate to each other better and higher consciousness essentially.
Yeah, well, I agree. Well, just imagine like a world where like each individual um is able to think for themselves, is able to yeah, of course, you maybe have to teach your child not to run across the street or whatever, those safety things. And but what if like they're able to really like explore um, their own inner knowing, their own body, and allow like these ideas and and trust, like we trust them to be, you know, um, who they really are. I mean, that really changes everything. And a lot of what we believe has been hand fed to us, you know. Um, but I mean, we can even change that within ourselves. Doesn't matter how old we are. Um, and what if like we're moving into a place, this is what I really think is happening, like all of this, the economic structure that we have, right? All the jobs and everything, they require massive growth to be sustained, right? Buying all the shit, like Walmart and all the stuff, right? Like we don't need all that stuff. Like, yeah, we want to buy some stuff. It feels good. I like stuff. I got rid of all my stuff, and it's like I still have stuff though, but like what I'm saying is like, the things that we spend money on, maybe we won't have to spend money on that stuff. The reason why I feel like this is nature readjusting us, God or the divine intelligence is readjusting the human species to come into a more sustainable world, like where our these natural technologies, they're coming. We shouldn't have to dig into the earth and like pull up oil, and like all even the cities that we have, maybe part of our purpose is rebuilding these cities in a sustainable way, creating, waterways and creating animal corridors and new
Right.
technologies.
Or maybe even the whole concept of a city kind of disappears because, if we're a little more connected and the whole reason for having a city be so dense is based on that consumerism that you kind of work, you go, you work, you live all in this place, and it's all physical. You have to go to some place and physically work. Whereas, now if that changes and hey, we don't have a job, then why do you need to be in a city to begin with? Why do we need cities? Why can't
Right.
we just be more, kind of in our own place and be able to, depending on what the needs are. I mean, again, it's still, if we're still going to the stuff mart and having to buy stuff, maybe you need to be in a city. I don't know. But it just seems like to me that you would be, people could be a little bit freer to be away from that and not have these dense populated areas that are full of pollution and it just to me it just doesn't the city has always seemed a little unnatural to me,
Yeah.
that it's always been there for an economic concern. And, in the old days, it was there for a security concern because you could combine, you could be densely populated. It would be hard for someone to come and conquer you. Um, but, if those things can go away,
Mhm.
people can live freely out in nature and be part of nature again, and be more involved in the earth rather than in stuff. Now, obviously, I think we want to keep things like, I'm into music, so I like to play music, so I want to be able to have musical instruments.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
there's not going to be some stuff,
yeah,
but I also think like things like, like we could be moving, and also I don't think that cities are inherently bad. It's just the way that they've been created that make
right.
them
They're
seem
human centric, and you need space. I think wildlife needs to have
right.
integrated into a city. We're not. It's almost like we've kind of pulled ourselves out of nature in a way when you're
Yeah.
in a city, when it should really be integrated with nature.
And so, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, there's all this stuff called, there's a science called biomimicry. Have you ever heard of that? It's where they build buildings that are basically they mimic nature, right? It's like a honeycomb or uh, the Fibonacci scale. Like they're creating, they're looking at nature, and then they're like, oh, this is how nature does it. We should build buildings like this. And I've seen some really cool, interesting things where um, they integrate, like they could integrate like farming in cities. Like there's no reason why they couldn't just grow food everywhere and have like these cities where there's like fruit trees everywhere, right?
Exactly. Where it's
There's no
not all separated in
right. That's the
mass
separation paradigm.
process
We're
things.
going to make it so you have to work to buy the goods. There's so many things. This is where I think the new jobs are coming from. And I don't think that we'll have to work as much, but I feel like the new jobs are going to be like transitioning into this new reality. And there's going to be so many jobs. There's instead of having like one big school to be like, oh, this like these children are really, everybody's different, right? Some people love art, some people love science, some people like to write poetry, like, that should be a part of, that's, people come in with a purpose and then they're fit into this mold, right? So that
Right.
they can make money and survive. And what I'm calling this new paradigm now is like I call it the truth paradigm. Like we're just living in truth, and we're leaving this paradigm that has really become like I am not safe. I have to work to survive. We have
Right.
to have wars because we're not safe, like this new war. It's like, oh, we're protecting you. I'm like, oh, really? Like, I don't like wars, man. I'm like, it's always like, well, we're gonna protect you, and it's like, oh, okay.
Right. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the way the world is. The thing too about if, like getting back to this integration thing, where, like you're saying, we're growing food where you live as opposed to having it all, like the farms being out in the middle of nowhere, and then you got the cities and that kind of stuff. You have like these producers and consumers, and in this case, you'd be more like a prosumer. Um, would be like a new concept where you produce your own food,
Right.
and you all or you work together as a group to produce your own food, or however it works out. But it's not you're not you don't got some guy out there or some company or big corporation out there growing food and filling it with pesticides and all that kind.
Right.
Everybody can be working together to grow stuff organically, and you can have healthy food to eat.
I mean, and we could, and AI is what's really cool. This is a thing that I really want to put out for everybody is that AI is a part of this transition because, like, we have a lot of, not everybody's going to want to grow food, you know,
Right.
but some people do. And if they have some androids to help them, like, pick the food and stuff, like it's hard work for, immigrants to go out there in a field that's 100 degrees and they're picking food. Maybe and it'd be better for androids, and I mean, those people are making nothing. And I'm just saying, like this mass, kind of monoculture, mono agriculture is dying. It's literally creating more CO2 for the planet and destroying the soil by this, tilling the way that they do. I mean, you can see that you can see it all imploding. Even the farmers now out in the Midwest, they're not making any money. They're only doing it because that's what they know, and it's not sustainable.
It's very low in terms of, you're just barely, and even grocery stores for that matter. I mean, you get such big giant grocery stores because their margins are so low even on that food and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah,
and I think AI can, if AI lowers the costs of all those things and allows us more freedom and time, I think that's a pretty cool thing.
I
That
do too.
that paradigm shift and just get off of the whole treadmill, paradigm and get more on a life paradigm.
Well, you can see it's just, for all of us out there, it's just not fulfilling, It's not fulfilling, it doesn't fulfill the soul. It doesn't fulfill like, what you really want to do, and it doesn't create a healthy body. Um, you know, as as we begin to raise the vibration in the body, humans, it's it's naturally occurring to just start to take care of yourself. Like literally happens to me. I'm just like, oh, I just want to eat vegetables and fruit more. It almost becomes like it's just a natural progression into this. And this is literally, I feel like it's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. It's happening right now.
Yes, big. There's going to be big changes in the next 5 or 10 years. That's for sure.
And what I want to like let everyone know is like, this is a good thing. I know it's scary and maybe we don't know, like we've had the same career for however long and we don't know what's going to happen. And I want to make sure like to at least put out like a little seed of hope so that folks know that like there is something really great coming.
Right. What do you guys out there think? Why don't you leave us a comment or two and tell us about what your feelings, fears, or hopes and stuff are regarding this AI paradigm shift coming our way.
Yeah, I think I would love to know what you think. Yeah, don't be afraid to tell us we're crazy and we don't know what we're talking. Also, like put in there maybe like what you would like to do. That's the
Yeah,
shift.
what are your
Also,
hopes and dreams?
yeah, what do you want to do if your field implodes? What do you really want to do? You know, like, do you hate your job or are you like, oh, it's okay job, I like it, but maybe there's something that you want to do that's a little bit different. Um,
And I think we're about out of time.
all right, well, thank y'all. Y'all have a good day. Appreciate
Yeah,
you.
good talking to you, Dave.
All right, take care, brother Carl.
All righty, take it easy.